everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. Today I have on David Haas, and he's here to tell us a story today.
Yeah, right on. I guess the story that I would probably want to tell is kind of been like the journey that I've gone through in my life, which is essentially a journey of self-discovery, self-realization, transcending and letting go of the things that limit me most. And so growing up, I was like at a very young age, like very, very driven, like entrepreneurially. Like I remember there was this moment where I grew in the county and this tomato truck had like fallen over and I like picked up all the tomatoes, went around and sold them to my neighbors. And so like at a very young age, I had this entrepreneurial energy. Started my first company when I was 16. As I was going to university for business, I was running a nightclub downtown Windsor. When I finished university, I sold my window washing business that had grown into like $100,000 a year business. It was great. And then I bought into a bar restaurant downtown. And that's kind of like where the story begins of awareness, because everything in my being was about like achievement. It's like I wanted to become rich. I wanted to make a lot of money. I wanted to be uber successful. I wanted to drive the fancy car and have the big house. And I thought that all I needed to do to obtain that was want it really, really badly. But the thing that I realized was that the wanting of that very thing was the very thing that was blocking me from actually having that come into my life. It was essentially what I was saying by being trapped in desire for money was that my life wasn't good enough as it is. And I needed to get to a certain destination in order to allow myself to be good enough. And the realization came in a multitude of ways. It first actually started with food. Like I went on this like a journey where my business partner put me in this documentary and turned me into a vegan for like a month, and I lost all this weight. But I had this epiphany during that time where I was like, I thought I knew a lot about food, and I realized I knew nothing about food. And so that curiosity of like, what else don't I know everything about, led into a turn inward, right? And it's like, I thought I knew everything that I needed to do to get to the destination that I wanted to go. And then I recognized that I knew nothing. And so I started asking questions like, why am I blocked? Why is this money not flowing into my life? Why is it so hard? Why am I working 15, 16 hours a day and I'm still broke essentially, right? And so this is, I think, the one thing that most like young entrepreneurs need to realize is that it's like hard work and desire is not enough to get you to where you want to go. Now, if it does, you're still going to end up in the exact same spot because you haven't solved for what's going on inside. And so the thing that I had to solve for what was going on inside when I started doing this work, one of the techniques that I learned is that you could plug into collective consciousness. You can tap into the source of all-knowing, all-powerful, all-present energy, and you can ask for the answers to be revealed. And so as I started clearing away some of that stuff, I sat in a meditation one day and I said, like, what is with my desire? Because it had come to my awareness that my desire for money was the ultimate block, right? And so I'm sitting in this meditation, and in that meditation, what was revealed to me was this moment where I was like in grade school, and these three girls, I went to a really small grade school, like the same class from kindergarten to all the way to grade 8. And these three girls pulled me aside and proceeded to tell me like I was like the smelly kid in school, right? And so I'm sitting in this meditation, and then it clicks to me. It's like, I'm in a meditation about desire and why I have so much desire. Why am I here? And then it all clicked. And like when you're in these meditative states, you see everything in an instant. Like if I were to try and tell this in a story, it would take me 3 to 5 minutes or even longer. But like I saw it all, and it was like that was the moment that Dave the entrepreneur was born. And so my desire for money, for wealth, for cars, all that was all about not wanting to feel the shame of being the smelly kid in school. And so now, as a justification of why I was a smelly kid, my mom died when I was 9. My dad was left to take care of us. He wasn't doing a great job. So at 9 years old, I'm doing my own laundry, making my own lunches, and just wasn't very good at it because I was 9 years old. Mm-hmm. And so that's why I was a smelly kid. But I was grateful for that moment. And I'm grateful to those girls. They're still my friends today because they snapped me out of it and turned me not into the smelly kid anymore. But also it ignited this fire in me of I need to go out and get money so that I never re-experience this shame ever again. And so then when I let go of the shame, when I sat in the pain as the I was probably 11 during that time, as the 11-year-old kid, and I gave him the space to feel the shame, and I was no longer fearful of being in shame, my desire for money in that one single meditation went from like a 10 out of 10 to like a 1 out of 10. And then when I was okay with where I was, I started becoming happier, right? And I always believed that money would make me happy, but as I became happy, money began to flow into my life. And so that's when I realized like we all have it all wrong. We're all trying to get to a destination to create some sort of feeling, but you actually have to do it in reverse. You have to create the feeling, and then the destination just comes as a result of already being there, kind of thing, right? And so that's when I'm like, okay, this is like everything that I want to learn about. I want to basically pursue the path of enlightenment. I want to unlock enlightenment and higher states of consciousness from within. And so then I dedicated like the next 20 years of my life to uncovering all that, and that's essentially the work that I've been doing.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that
Yeah,
story.
no worries. Yeah.
So the question I have is the work that you did to kind of dissolve the fear of wanting, not the fear, the want of more.
Yeah.
That was meditation, or was that?
Well, it was a combination. It was awareness would be step one. It was like recognizing first and foremost that I can observe what I'm telling myself. So I just started paying attention to what I was thinking about most. And during that time, what I thought about most was making money, like literally 50,000 thoughts a day were about how can I make more money? How can I get ahead? How can I not be where I currently am? Mm-hmm. And so once I brought awareness to that, I was like, holy cow, I'm essentially telling myself repetitively that I am not good enough as I am. I need to get to this place. And that created like a very miserable kind of like personality. I was tough to be around unless I was drinking, and then I was fun. But like, other than that, it was like, I was like miserable. I was serious. And I believed that when I had money, that I could be myself again. Right. But what I realized was that through that awareness, through just noticing how often I was thinking about that, how often I was telling myself that I'm not good enough, those thoughts began to reduce. Mm-hmm. Right. Recognizing also that those thoughts, and this is from the work that I did, were all a protection from pain. So me thinking about getting ahead was a protection from me re-experiencing the pain of shame. So with that came the second step, which was to actually feel the shame that I was avoiding, so that I could show my mind that I'm okay there. You don't need to protect me anymore. You can turn down the dial of all of those thoughts. And so when I stopped trying to figure it out and I stopped thinking about it so much, then I allow the grace of God for me would be like to come through and be like, hey, here's exactly what you got to do in order to like get to everything. And what I was basically shown is that you have to be the state. You have to be happy now. So when I started being happy now, the money began to flow. Yeah. So the way I describe this is an example that's come to me recently. It's like my daughter, she's 6 and she swims, but she doesn't put her face in the water. Right. And so I watch her and I observe her, and she has all these techniques to make sure that she never gets splashed in the face. If there's other kids playing, she's on the other side of the pool. If someone jumps in, she turns her back. When she dives into the water, she has like this move where she keeps her head above water, right? And so all of those are mechanisms of protection from the fear of getting her face wet. But the second that she finally learns that she can go underwater and it's not going to hurt her and she's going to survive, all of those mechanisms instantly go away, right? And so that's kind of like the work that I've dedicated my life to, is not about changing our thoughts. It's about understanding why we're having the thoughts in the first place. And if you can get to the root of why you're having the thoughts, face the pain that those thoughts are helping you avoid, then the thoughts go away in an instant. There is no 20 years of therapy that's required. You can literally create a change in an instant. And when you lower the noise that all of those thoughts were repetitively saying to you over and over and over again, you clear space for like present moment. And in present moment, then the unknown begins to be revealed to you, and then you can make big leaps. Yeah.
Say someone isn't really familiar with this kind of work.
Yeah.
How do you think they can start to decipher what that core fear is?
Number one is they have to observe, right? And so they have to ask themselves, what am I saying to myself most frequently? Now, this is where it does help to have like a coach or a guide or reading. Dr. David Hawkins is kind of the guy that I kind of did all my studying under, and then, like, I read every one of his books and watched all of his lectures, and he helped me kind of like decipher the thoughts, because you have to have the ability to decipher the thoughts a little bit. Like, for example, like one of my ones I've been working on recently is like getting into better shape. Like, I want to be more physically fit, and so I started paying attention to what I'm saying around being physically fit. And so as I started just bringing awareness to it, some of the things I was telling myself were like really, really brutal stuff, like calling myself fat, telling myself I need to work harder, or saying every time I ate food, there was negative energy around it. And so again, the deciphering of that, if you look at the thought, it seems like it's good. It's trying to motivate you to get into shape and to work out more and to eat better. But the reality is it's the same thing as the money thing. Is like, what I'm saying over and over again is that I am not healthy, or I am not in shape. And so you need to go out and get that. And so as I began to realize that, I recognized that the number one thing that I needed to shift was I had to have self-acceptance. I needed to look in the mirror and go, you're just perfect the way you are. And the first time I did that, I was like, what I said to myself was like, I'll never accept that. But just with that awareness alone, just by beginning to notice those thoughts over time, I've been looking in the mirror going like, hey, you look pretty good. Nothing's changed. I haven't lost any weight or haven't gotten any more muscles, but I'm starting to say to myself, you look pretty good. And it's all through awareness. So piece one is awareness. And then a little bit of deciphering, right? And the deciphering that would be required here is to recognize the mind has one function, is to try and protect you, right? And so it is going to create mechanisms of protection the same way my daughter created those mechanisms of protection. So the mechanism of protection to not feel the pain of being the overweight guy at a pool party was to beat myself up into eating better and working harder, right? And so over time, that actually becomes it ends up manifesting the reverse, because what you're telling yourself repetitively is that you're not in shape. And so if every day you wake up and you tell yourself 10,000 times a day, in some way, shape, or form, that you are not in shape, then guess what? You will not be in shape, because what you hold in mind tends to manifest. And that's like the one teaching that I stick to. So we need to be aware of what we're holding in mind. And if we're not, then we are essentially just a passenger in the car that the ego is driving.
Do you have a mantra or like a saying, something that you tell yourself to keep yourself on track?
Yeah, I think that I wouldn't say I have a mantra. Like I'm not a big fan of tools. Actually, I was just doing a meditation today. It was showing me like the straight and narrow path with all these toolboxes on each side, and recognizing that people really cling on to tools. And not that I'm against them, because I've had great awarenesses using some of these tools, but the recognition is that you don't need all of the tools, right? It's like all of the answers are already available to us, but we actually just have to create the space in the mind to allow those answers to come through. But usually our mind is so busy and so clouded with protection that you can't hear any of the answers. So we have to undo that. So the only real tool I have is letting go. The mantra that I use all the time, though, that I would say that I repeat, it's not a mantra, but it's just something I repeat, is that everything's going to be okay, right? And a lot of stress, a good majority of stress that people experience in their life is believing unconsciously, they're not aware that they're believing it, that it's not going to be okay. They believe they're going to run out of money, they're going to get sick, they're going to lose loved ones. And if you're constantly telling yourself this and you're not aware of it, then that's what shows up in your life. And so it's like, well, we better become really aware really quickly of what we're saying to ourselves, because if we're not, what you hold in mind tends to manifest. And so I want to be aware so that I can make the changes. Yeah. So and the trust, it's like, I think if you get really deep into spiritual work, you'll recognize that nothing is causing anything. It's like the Newtonian paradigm is like linear. A causes B, cause and effect, all of that. But in the spiritual world, it's nonlinear. There is no causality. And this is like getting deep, and people don't understand it, but essentially it's like Hawkins gives this great example. It's like, if there's a speck of dust floating here, right? It's like, what caused this speck of dust to be floating here right now in this moment? You wouldn't be able to name them. There would be millions of factors. Like, it's like you had to walk into this room. We had to open the door. A breeze had to come in. The carpet needed to not be vacuumed. The renovation that happened upstairs 3 weeks ago needed to happen. Like all of there's millions of factors that led to this speck of dust floating right here in this moment. And so then when you realize that there actually is no causality, we recognize that we are a part of an unfolding of the universe, an evolution of the universe. And so if you look at where we were 100 years ago, right? We were living, and we had houses, but we had no plumbing, we had no electricity. The car was just coming around. Washing machines were just starting to come around. Electricity was but like if you lived in the country, it's like you were still horse and buggy, going to the bathroom in outhouses, heating your house with a wood fire. To 100 years later, it's like, I'm sitting in my basement watching TV on the internet on my 80-inch TV. And it's like, what did you have to do to be a part of that life getting easier and better and just into a more of a state of flow? You had to do nothing, right? Mm-hmm. And so that's that force, that unfolding. You don't have to do anything to be a part of it. Now, if you can become aware of it, then you can begin like riding the wave of that unfolding, as opposed to kind of like swimming against the current.
So these days when you want something, do you just kind of allow it to happen? How do you make that decision to? Yeah,
100%. So the first thing is, I am trying to be out of wanting. I don't want to want anything, but it's not true that I don't want anything. There are still things that I want to manifest in my life, but there's no longer the energy of necessity. It's like, for example, one of the things that I want that I've been unable to unlock, and I continue to do the work to unlock it, is I want like abundant wealth. I want like money that I'm like, I don't even know what to do with this money, right? And so that's the level of wealth that I want to get to. I've been unable to unlock that to this point. So the first thing I start asking myself is, well, what am I telling myself about that kind of money flowing? What are the belief systems? What are the stories? What are the protections? What will happen if I get that level of wealth? What am I fearful of will show up? How will I feel when I get there? Why don't I feel that way now? Like, these are the questions I would ask myself. So that questioning, that line of question, will begin to reveal the limitations that I'm holding on to that I'm unaware of. The second thing, though, is to just set the intention. So whatever it is that you want to attract into your life, you just want to intend to allow that to unfold in your life. And then from there, you basically don't have to do anything, right? Mm-hmm. Once you set the intention, everything that you need to have that intention manifest will flow into your life. Now, the question is, though, are you paying attention to how the universe, God, or whatever is giving you the necessary tools, or are you trapped in your own control and trying to make it happen? So I'll give you a quick little story about this. It's like, I'm a big golfer, like I golf a lot. And so when I first started golfing, like, more seriously, I set the intention to break 80 in golf, and I did it in about a year, right? Then for the next like half a season, my next intention was that I would shoot par. But the thing is, I didn't really set that intention because I didn't really believe it was going to happen. Like the gap from breaking 80 to par seemed really big to me. And I went back to my old ways. I started practicing harder. I started thinking about it more. I started concentrating more. And then I recognized, I'm like, oh, I'm playing golf without a true aligned intention, right? So then I realigned with my intention. Do I believe that if I keep playing golf, if I keep practicing, if I keep playing 2 days a week and I keep practicing, that eventually I'm going to shoot par? And the answer was yes. Like, yes, I do believe that will happen. Now, I didn't put a timeline on it. I said, I'm going to be playing golf for the next 40 years, right? So it's like, I got 40 years to have this manifest in my life. Do I believe it will happen? Yes, 100%. So then what happened was I stopped trying to figure it out. I stopped trying to control. I was just having fun. I was enjoying the process. I was practicing still. I was still playing golf, but there was no expectation. There was no attachment to the outcome. There was no needing for it to show up. And as a result, par showed up for me well before. I thought it was going to take me years, and it happened in like 2.5 years, right? And so like that's the power of getting out of the mind's way. Getting the mind out of the way is maybe a better way to say it, and letting that unfolding energy, that evolutionary energy, work for us as opposed to us working against it.
Cool.
Yeah.
So I'm hearing you still did the work. You set the intention, but you were still practicing.
Yes.
You were still showing up.
Yeah. And so like I think like a lot of like what I say to people is like, you can have whatever you want and it can be effortless. And what people interpret that as means you're going to sit on your couch all day and do nothing. No, you still have to do the things, but it's no longer from the money that I didn't make leading up to my awareness of desire. There was an insane amount of effort. It was a grind. It was a hustle. It was long hours. After I dropped the desire, I still did things, but there was no grind. There was no hustle. I was still doing stuff, but there was no more energy of, I need this in order to like be happy, to be a certain way. It was just from this trust that it was going to show up. And so in that trust, you like just enjoy the process, and you trust that, hey, it's all going to happen. Like I just trust that I'm going to shoot par. I just trust that one day I will unlock that abundance that I'm holding in mind. Right. And it's like, now the thing is for me is like, if it doesn't show up, I'm okay too. Right. And so there's no longer like this having to energy. And that's the thing that creates the feeling of effort, And so it's like, if you're just flowing, right, you're still doing stuff, right? It's like, the state of flow, for example, would be like a basketball player who's hot, right? Just can't miss. He's still shooting the ball, right? But he's in the state of flow. He's completely free from the mind. The second he brings awareness to the fact that he's in the flow state, guess what? He misses, right? And so it's like, that's the state that I want to be in, where it's just like everything is just working for me and unfolding, and I don't actually technically have to do anything. And when I say that, I mean, I'm still doing stuff, but I don't need to be trying to control it all, trying to figure it out. It's just, I just like recognize that everything I need is just flowing into my life, and I'm just riding that wave kind of thing.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
And so you're having lots of conversations with yourself.
Oh yeah.
Is that like throughout the day? Are you sitting, meditating, journaling? What is that?
I'm not
look like?
doing. I don't do a lot of. I do a daily meditation. It's about 10 minutes, and it's essentially in that meditation. This is my mentor Andrew taught me this. Is like this is what I said: pray to thee to know thy will, and for the energy to fulfill it. Which is essentially God. Like, what do you want from me? And then once that's revealed to me, then I ask for the energy to go out and go do the thing, right? And so in that, I just basically waiting for what God wants me to do in that day, right? And so God, universe, put your word to me, it's God, but it's like it's the energy that connects us all. It's that unfolding energy that's working for us. That's the energy of God to me. And so that's like my only kind of daily practice. I'm learning all the time though, so it's like I'm reading spiritual work every morning for about 25 minutes, meditate for 10. And then throughout the day, though, that's really where I'm constantly trying to be an observer, meaning I'm not in my head, I'm observing what's in my head. And now I'm not there all the time. Like most people are 99% not observing what they're telling themselves.
Mm-hmm.
I may be, 30% observing, right? And so I catch what I think one of the greatest things that's happened for this is that I would say I have really high emotional intelligence, right? So if there's an emotional reaction in me, and this process isn't about being free of emotions. If someone dies, you're going to feel grief, you're going to feel sadness. But recognizing when emotions stir up in me, I'm immediately stepping back and going, oh, why is this here, right? Like, what is it that I need to look within? What button just got pushed in me? So I use these triggers as like doorways to go through. Now, sometimes I go through them right there in that spot. Sometimes I let the ego run wild and the emotion takes control. And then later on in the evening or a couple of days later, I go, oh, someone just pushed a button in me and I never actually dealt with it. I let my emotions, like dictate my response essentially. So it's a stepping back. I say that would be like the core of what I'm doing most is a stepping back from my thoughts and an analysis of why I'm thinking that way. Yeah.
Oh, that was a good breakdown. Thank you.
Yeah. No worries.
So you said that this is the work that you do now? Is it
Yeah.
you're doing it for you?
Well,
for others?
I had like when I sold my bar, I opened a bunch of bars, and when I sold my bar, I had already created like a coaching business because my life was essentially like transforming. Like I went from like partying, drinking all the time to like being sober, having like multiple relationships, kind of being like a man whore, like all this, broken friendships, all this kind of stuff, money problems, credit card problems, like to like money flowing into my life, meeting my wife, getting married, having kids, getting into great shape, being sober for, I've been sober for 15 years. And like, everyone was going like, hey, what the hell are you doing? Like you once were this like miserable fuck, and now I'm like this, Zen kind of like chill, enjoying life, smiling more, enjoying life more. And people essentially started picking up on that. And so that was the result of a coaching business that was born. So I was doing it essentially for free out of my house in groups. And then it led to like a one-on-one coaching practice, which I was running for a long time. But then I opened up Lungovita. So my business partner out there and a couple other friends, we put some money together and we created Lungovita. And now ultimately Lungovita will be the space where I can expose more people to the work that I've been doing. And so coaching is great, but it's limited because I can only sit across from so many people one-on-one. And that's not really the life that I want to create. I want to create a life where I have freedom, right? And if I have to be in meetings and be in these certain spaces, I don't have that freedom. So anything I do in the coaching world from this point forward will be probably like in like one-to-many, and that will probably be executed out at Lungovita. So you can come to a retreat at Lungovita, or I'll have courses that you can buy, and I'll probably do very limited one-on-one right now. But my main focus right now is getting Lungovita to where it needs to be so that we can start actually doing this work out there.
For anyone that's not familiar with Lungovita, can you talk about that briefly?
Yeah, Lungovita is locally there was a Kubota Park, which is like the 16-acre property on Lake Erie. And it was a trailer park that the Kubota Club owned here, and they ran it for years, and it was like a staple in the Italian community. Everyone would go out there. But during COVID, they needed to get rid of that property, and so we had always kind of had this idea. My business partner, really, Andrew, had this vision of like after Airbnb was created that anybody could be a hotel, right? And we were doing some retreats. Andrew was doing some retreats. I did some retreats where I was renting spaces to host these retreats, but we were said like, let's just create the space that we can use to host our own retreats. And so essentially what we're doing out there now is just creating a space that we would want to hang out at. And so Not only do we have these cool domes that is immersed in nature, like it's this big piece of property in the county, 600 feet of waterfront, and so we have cold plunges coming soon in the next couple of weeks. But right now we have pools, saunas, hot tubs, we have bikes, kayaks, hammocks, we have yoga that's complimentary when you stay there. And so it's like just a way to return back to nature, return to the present moment. It's like the unplugging that is so necessary these days. And we knew that that's what we needed for ourselves. And so we created this space for everyone else. And it's been like really, really well received. And we got big plans to like turn it into like an amazing wellness retreat where eventually there'll be like a done for you retreat that you can come and do a 3, 5, or a 7-day reset. So that's where it's kind of headed. But right now it's just like the beauty of like that property and being out there and being like, we have like a no music policy, right? And so people are like, get all up in arms about that. But then when they're out there, they're like, they feel so relaxed and so peaceful. So like one of our slogans is like, you can spend 2 days at Lungovita and feel more rested than you would if you went away for a week to like an all-inclusive resort kind of thing. So that's what I think people really, really need. Plus like community, not around like drinking and partying. And so that's what Lungovita is going to be. It's going to be like an amazing spot. Eventually people will come from all over the world to visit it. So, but we're in the early stages right now. Yeah.
I've been a couple of times.
Oh, have you? Oh, great.
Yeah, I was at Elevate.
Oh, yeah. Okay, nice.
And it is a lovely property. The sunrise and sunsets there are gorgeous.
Yeah, definitely.
So if people are liking the vibe of this conversation and they want to find out more about you, where can they find you?
Yeah, everything that I do is basically David F, like Frank, because that is actually my middle name, Frank, believe it or not, Haas. And so my Instagram, my YouTube, LinkedIn, it's all David F. Haas, but then also Lungovita, which means long life. You can look up that. It's like one of the reasons we picked that name, because if you type in Lungovita, it doesn't even matter how you spell it. We'll be the first ones that come up, kind of thing. So that's the main thing. I've kind of like paused the release of content, but I am about to start releasing content again. So where I'm just going to freely share everything that I know, because one of the recognitions has been in me that desire is, even though it's way more reduced, it's still in me, and it clouds sometimes like the clarity that's required to like spread this message. And so I'm essentially, with respect to my coaching, is I'm basically like renouncing all money. So I'm not going to entertain any ideas that would make me money. Now, I'm not going to refuse money. If I blow up on YouTube and become a YouTube sensation and YouTube wants to pay me, by all means, I'm going to take that money. But I'm not going to like come up with business ideas, because that's because of like that program that was running in me for so long. Like that's what I do. It's like I just turn everything into a business idea.
Yeah.
And so I've like basically done a complete 180, and I'm going to do the exact opposite of that. I don't want to monetize any of this. I just want to freely give it out the same way it was freely given to me.
So what was the desire? The desire was to share this information?
Yeah, like the desire is like, my number one thing that I want to do is like what I've always said is like, I want to end the suffering of mankind, which I know it won't happen, but I won't be able to do, but like that's the goal, right? And so that is a very powerful intention. But then it gets clouded by, well, how do I make this sustainable? How do I make money? How do I feed my family and pay for my life? And so that clouds that intention, and then you get wrapped up in how do you make a viral post, and all of this stuff. And so I'm like, no, I'm just canceling all of that, right? And I just trust that my financial needs will be sorted out, and they have always have been, And so I'm going to stick to trusting that, and then I'm just going to spread the message, and just allow it to unfold.
I love that.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for this conversation.
Yeah, no, it's great.
It was really fun.
Yeah, awesome.